So today we're going to be tying a feeler shrimp Bann special. Now in the vise I have my tube fly adapter and I have one of these 10mm Stanton signature tubes. They're flangeless, so we're going to be finishing it off with a cone head, and I already have it lined with some 1.8mm liner and I have my silicone on at the end. Now I'm going to be using some 8.0 Semperfli classic waxed, and we'll just catch on where the tube joins our liner, and we'll just smooth out this transition from the brass onto the liner, and then lay a bit of a base down through our tube. And there we go. So for my hackle I'm going to be using some golden pheasant red breast feather. There's one there. Just strip off a lot of the fluff. Probably should have already had this one done. Just expose the tip, peel some of the feather fibres back, and we'll catch it in. The tube's quite a wide diameter, so we're probably only going to get a turn and a half or 2 turns or so. So just wind our hackle on, just trying to peel back any of the fibres. So there's one full turn, and I probably just 1.5. Catch down our hackle stock, and then just lay a bit of thread back, just making sure all the fibres are pointing back. So I'm going to be adding some crystal flash here. I've got some pearl micro flash. I just take a strand of that and double it over. So I just tie in 2 strands each side, sort of the length of your pheasant tail fibres, pheasant breast fibres you're using in the tail, sorry. I'll do a couple on my side and a couple on the camera side. You can tie them sort of top, bottom and side to side if you want, you know, 1 strand each, but it's a lot quicker, a lot less messing about. Now for the feelers I'm going to be using some stripped hackle stocks. These are just took off an old cock cape. Just use up some of the bigger feathers that I don't use for hackles. I've got 4 here that I have already stripped. It's quite a tedious job. So if you look at the stock itself, it has a natural curve, and at the butt end it's quite flat, which is very good for tying in. Oh, thread moved up there. That means then if you're tying it in right at the butt, it lies nice and flat. Sometimes if you're using a big stock and trying to move down it to tie it in, it can roll over and twist on you. So just take our time here, and this is where the full rotary vise comes in very handy. You can just rotate it all the way around to see exactly where everything is and get it tied in where you want it. There's a bit of time involved in tying these, but it's a fly I've got an awful lot of confidence in. I've had quite a few fish on them. I've tied them for quite a lot of other people as well that seem to like them. Just once your feelers are tied in, just come back around and trim off any of the butt ends. You can fold them up just to get in at them, and then tie everything down. Just lay a bit of thread down to sort of smooth everything out. Now for the rib, I'm going to be using some uni oval and small. I'll just take, that's probably about 9 inches worth, that'll get me a few flies. And we'll catch this in and bring our thread back down to where we want to start our body. Now for our body, I'm going to be using some yellow seal's fur just for the rear body. So we'll just peel off some of that and create a bit of a dubbing noodle. This is where things can get a little bit tricky because you're tying onto a tapered cone and everything kind of has a tendency to want to slide down the cone. If you want, you could lay a bit of super glue down just to help catch in, just to help the dubbing in the body stay in place. And then we'll just bring our rib up, open turns. Now, this is where it can get fun. Like I say, everything has a tendency to want to slide down your cone or tube. It's not too bad. Now for our first hackle, I'm going to be using an orange, it's a saddle hackle. It's taken from an Indian saddle. It's quite webby, probably describe it more as a henny cock. You can see down at the tips they're nice and fine, and then it moves into some more webby fibre. So I've already got this one, well, sort of pre-folded. We'll just trim off our tip, tie in. This is, everything's wanting to slide down. There's a good chance this will pull through, but hopefully not. Aye, pulled out. I knew that was going to happen. So again, we'll just trim off. Again, this is where a little bit of super glue in the thread can work wonders. We'll just wind this hackle in. Teasing all our fibres back again. Just trying to keep it as tight as possible. Tight touch and turns. And then come in with 3 or 4 wraps of thread just to tie our stock down. Then we can trim off. And we'll just bring our thread back up, just catching everything down. And we'll come in again with a rib for our front body, which again is our silver oval. So if you want at this stage, you could change threads to a black thread to match our front body, which again is black seal's fur, but just for convenience and speed, I'll keep going with the white. Generally the white's pretty good, you won't see it through the dubbing. And again, we'll just lay a bit of a body down. And come up through it with a rib. You don't really get very many turns, 2 or 3 at the most. And we'll catch that off. Again, a few more turns of thread just to make sure everything's well tied in. And now for our final hackle, I have a a badger saddle here. It's a saltwater saddle, so it's quite large feathers, but ideal for the tubes. Again, I have a feather picked here already doubled over. So same as before, trim the tip off, tie it in, plenty of turns of thread, and hopefully this one won't pull through. Again, we'll wind our hackle on, trying to get all the fibres pulled back. If there's any sticking forward, it's not the end of the world, we'll get them at the end. But I suppose it's always just good practice or good form to try and get it right the first time, get as many back as you can. So a few turns of thread, trim off the waist, and now we're ready for adding our eyes. So again, I have two drop down jungle cock eyes already prepared. And again, with the tying the sort of larger tubes, it's a good way of getting the bigger feathers, the bigger eyes in your jungle cock cape used up. They're not cheap, so it's always good to make the most of every cape you have. And we'll just get them tied in over the top, just checking they're both the same length. There we go, that's not too bad. A few more turns of thread. We can double them back. A couple more threads, turns over the top. And then we'll whip finish. You can use your whip finish tool, though I find it a lot handier just to whip finish with my fingers. Plenty of turns on it, and then just the point of the scissors in to keep the tension on your lip. So now just to finish off with our cone. So just to finish off, I have it's a 5.5mm cone here. We just pull that, push that on. That's not too bad. Just check that it fits well before we super glue it on. Where is my super glue? There. Again, for super glue I just use Loctite. Just a little spot. Put the tube on, give it a bit of a twist, and then hold some pressure on it until it sets. Usually a few seconds is all it takes. And there we have the Feeler Shrimp Bann Special. Now all that's left to do is trim the hackle stalks and just give that plastic liner a bit of a trim and furl it down. So the glue should be set now. So we'll take that off. I'll try and get this done for the camera. So all I do is hold all the tips in line and just come in where the, move it down to the camera to see, where the spades are for the last hackles, and just trim them off. That should be them all square. And then, where did I put my old scissors? There. Again, just to trim off. You want to trim it back just about 1 millimetre or so. And then come in with your lighter to furl the end. Once it's furled, I always like to take my double needle and just push it down into the hole to make sure it's not sealed over. The last thing you want is to get to the river, try and thread it down through the line and realise that it's all melted over, sealed over. So that's what's finished there. That's the Bann Special feeler tube. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video.